Well, good morning. Welcome to Debbie's Back Porch. So glad to have you with us. I'm not cooking today. Even though it's winter, I am gardening. The young man next door wants to learn to build raised beds and some gardening, so he's coming over to help. And he's bringing his friend. We started in the kitchen. We built this bed. That was the royal we, by the way. They built it. I instructed and filmed. And then we took it outside for some fall bulbs. I bought two 2x6s 10 feet long and one 2x6 6 feet long, and had it all cut in half. So you can see this is a small bed. Okay, this is Rocky, my next door neighbor. He's gonna help me build this bed. Say hi, Rocky.
Hey.
Hey. Okay, we're doing it inside because it's so cold outside. Okay, there you go. Camera's on you. So Rocky and his friend Edgar are going to build this together, and it takes them 15 to 20 minutes, almost no time. And while this is a very small bed, this design, had to move my camera, this design can be replicated. And I'll just explain my thinking on these, and I've done quite a few like this, and they're very sturdy. And this is pressure treated lumber. It's fir. And I know people worry about pressure treated lumber, but you don't have to anymore in gardening, because when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace like that and buy pressure treated lumber, it's not treated with the toxins that it used to be. There are new regulations that stop that. Well, they're not very new. So when we lay this out, we offset, if you'll notice, the corners. On one side, the 42-inch board is inside the 18-inch board. And on the other side, the 42-inch board will be on the outside of the 18-inch board. And what that does, well, and what we'll put on the top layer, because this is going to be 2 layers, it evens out the pressure. You know, when you have a big bed and you fill it full of dirt, there's a lot of pressure from the inside out with freezing and thawing and different things that happen in the weather. Whoops, there are the helpers. That's Josie and Tessie. Josie is the big one. So we're going to move the pressure points into different places so that when we put the top layer, so we're going to have, it's like an 11.5-inch bed, because when you buy a 2x6, it's actually 5.5 inches. So we're going to offset those corners. And Edgar's having a little trouble here, learning to use the drill. He's doing a pretty good job, though. Making sure that everything is lined up and really square. Takes practice. There we go. We got it. I'm going to show him how to use the guard here. If you pull that up, it'll hold it. Okay. Now we'll move to the other side. And Rocky's going to do the other side. This is actually the second bed Rocky and I have made together, so he has a little practice at it. These are 3-inch screws, 3-inch wood screws. My advice is to get the smaller gauge. These are, I think it's called 9 gauge, so they're not so big around and they go in easier. Some of this wood is pretty hard. Okay. They're going to make sure that it's squared up here. And there you go. That's one layer finished. I'll be back. So now we're going to build the top layer, and I'm just showing them how to lay it out so that we offset. On this layer, the 3.5 inch board is going to start on the 3.5 feet board is going to start on the outside, so that we're offsetting the pressure points to just give it a little more life. Now these 2-inch boards will last, well, I mean, I have some that have been out there for 7 years, but really you can expect to get 5 or 6 years out of them if you get the pressure treated boards. Some of the other beds I have built are cedar. Whoops. And the cedar lasts longer. This is not cedar, this is fir, which is not as strong as cedar, of course, but it doesn't cost as much either. So, while I have my main vegetable beds made out of cedar, I'm making these flower beds out of the less expensive lumber. So Rocky is putting these together. We're just going to do the same process again all the way around, and then I'll be back. So they're finishing up the top layer, and when they get that done, we just need to affix the top to the bottom layer in some way that will be sturdy. And there are a couple ways to do that, and I'll show you the other way, not the way we're going to do this time, but the way I did my vegetable beds. So my vegetable beds are made out of 2x4s, and if you can see, I placed them together and used mending plates. And mending plates come in different types. This type nails in. It's actually got indentions on the other side that go in with a hammer. You can also buy them that go in, that have screw holes, and you screw them in, which I actually prefer. For these flower beds, because they're so small, I'm just going to use some corner braces out of 2x2s. So here we go. Both layers are finished, and they're a really good fit, and these guys have been so careful to make sure that everything fits exactly. Now we're going to put in our corner braces. So these corner braces are just pieces of scrap 2x2s, and I'll tell you, I bought like a big one for about $2. It was on a table where there was some warped wood, and I just cut out the place where the warp was. So these are 10 inches, and we're going to put them in the corners, or they are going to put them in the corners. And what we will do with these 3-inch screws is that we'll screw in 2 screws going in one direction and 2 screws going in the other direction, so we have really sturdy joints at each corner. Now, if you were making a bed that were 6 feet long or longer, I would put another one of these 1x1s, 10-inch 1x1s, right in the middle, on the inside or the outside, either one. I'd put it on the inside just so that they would all look uniform, but you could put it on the outside too and give it a kind of a rustic look. But anything over 5 or 6 feet long is going to have a lot of pressure from the soil on the inside pushing outward, and that will help protect it from bowing, because it can bow and bend in the elements. I'll let you watch them do one more corner. You can see this one a little bit better. So they just fit it in snugly and make sure that it stays, that it doesn't shift, that the top one doesn't shift on the bottom, on top of the bottom one. And once you get opposite corners done, it's not going to shift. You won't have to worry about that anymore. And I have to say a word. Rocky and Edgar are just, they're being very careful and trying to be very precise. They're doing a really good job. They're both high school seniors. There you go. So 2 more screws in the opposite direction on this one, and then they'll do the other 2 corners, and then I'll be back. All finished, a nice sturdy flower bed for $23. They're going to take it outside and we're going to fill it up. See you outside. So we're outside, and I know it's sunny and looks gorgeous, but it's cold out here. So this is the 5-foot bed that Rocky and I made yesterday. And we're going to fill these up with a mixture of garden soil and compost. Now this is bagged garden soil, by the way, not topsoil. I'm going to mix it about half and half. Garden soil generally comes with added nutrients. And of course the compost is full of nutrients and organic matter. So for planting these winter bulbs or these fall bulbs, this is going to do well. Now, if you'll notice, I've got Rocky turning this soil and mixing it together, the soil and the compost, because you don't want there to be layers in there. You want to mix this together well. If you put different textures and weights of soil together without mixing them, they can form a barrier that keeps water from moving freely through the soil. That's the reason you really don't want to put a layer of gravel on the bottom of your flower pots, because you don't want to inhibit the free flow of the water through your soil. So you'll see here Edgar's going to really give it a good turn before we add any more. Mixing it up really well. So we'll fill up both beds, and then when we're done with that, I'll be back. Well, we've got the second bed filled. They've turned the soil and mixed it well. I'm just sort of cleaning off the rims. Now I'm going to plant some garden bulbs, some fall bulbs, some iris and crocus and daffodils, and I'm leaving about 1 inch on top. Now this is going to settle over the winter. So I'm going to place these bulbs, and then I'll put some more dirt, more of the soil over the top of them. I'm going to take it out of that other bed. So let me get the bulbs and we'll be right back. So I have here a variety of fall bulbs, and there's really not much to this. You just put them down, cover them up with the pointy end up, and you should be able to see which is the pointy end because it's pointy, and then there are roots on the other end. So you want to put them with the pointy end up, and you really want to put them a couple inches, 2 or 3 inches under the ground. What I'm going to do is put these in, and then we're going to move some of that mixture of soil over to bring this up to the top. The reason I'm bringing it up to the top is because it's going to settle over the winter. Usually you want to leave about 1 inch or so around the outside top. And then we're going to put some mulch on these. So we're just sticking them in at random, mixing them up. It's a whole variety of colors, nothing artistic here, just lots of color. And now the guys are covering the planted bulbs with pine straw. This is pine needles. In the South, you can get these really cheap, and they're great mulch. They have an allelopathic effect. They kill weeds. They keep weeds from germinating. That also means they will keep your seeds from germinating. I checked this morning to make sure, and it's okay to use the pine needles on bulbs, but you don't ever want to put them on newly planted seeds. Ask me how I know. I lost a whole bed of carrots because I didn't know that. So we're just going to put 2 or 3 inches on, and of course this too is going to settle over the winter. But these are all done, and in the spring we should have some beautiful, colorful flowers. I hope you found this helpful. This is an easy model for building raised beds, not too expensive, pretty easy to do. And I really enjoyed it because I love it when young people want to learn how to garden and to grow things. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Hope to see you again tomorrow.